ever hear a story that just doesn't fit the pattern that you're used to hearing? Most of the time, when somebody says, I just bought from Camping World, what follows, well, it's generally not exactly a Hallmark movie. It's more like a horror flick with hidden fees, optional charges added in, and sometimes a roof that decides to take a vacation without you. But today, we're going to be doing something different. You're going to meet Rajiv. Rajiv is a single dad. He's new to RVing. He bought a used trailer from Camping World. And you're not going to believe this, but he got hammered with thousands of dollars in optional add-ons. Then he watched his roof peel back, and the dry rot shows up. Well, so far sounds pretty familiar, right? Well, here's the twist. After months of frustration and doing more homework than most folks will ever do, his story actually turns a corner. It does. Camping World actually replaced his roof. They did, to the tune of about 16 grand. 16 grand on a trailer that's not even worth that. Now, does that suddenly make Camping World the hero of the RV world? No, not in my book. But you know what? Rajiv's journey does show what can happen when you stay calm. You get your facts straight and you keep pushing instead of just blowing up on social media. So today I'm going to want to know what you think about Rajiv's story. By the way, if you're watching on your phone or your computer, just hit that little arrow, that share arrow. It's right under the video, and text it to someone that might enjoy it. Also, you see the QR code over here? Well, that's where you'll find my free RV resources, my buying resources and selling resources, and a list of America's most trusted RV dealers and RV limit law help. If you can't scan the code, a link is down in the description. All right, let's sit down with Rajiv, and you decide for yourself what his story really says. It's a long one. It is. And again, I'd like to know what you think. Well, when you first emailed me a couple of weeks ago, no offense, but I kind of thought it was a joke. And then you just recently emailed me again. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this guy is legit. So you and I've never spoken before, but you have an unusual story that doesn't start out very positive, but it ends, sounds like pretty positive.
Very positive. Yeah.
So tell me what's going on, Rajiv. Why did you contact me? And let's kind of talk about your experience.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I am new in the whole RV industry. I purchased an RV, a used RV in 2023. For me, it was a big purchase, like an emotional purchase that I think a lot of people experience when they buy an RV. I'd gone through a divorce, and I have younger kids, and buying an RV brought back some really cool memories. And so we went, and part of the reason why I'm telling you this is because part of the problem with purchasing the RVs that I didn't do the research that I should have done. I didn't know about your channel and other channels that talked about what the RV industry currently is at, and some of the negative pieces of it. And so I had a friend that had purchased an RV from a small dealer that ended up with a bent frame, and she went to this whole ordeal where they wouldn't fix it. And so, like, I was completely against buying from a smaller dealership because of that. And so we have a Camping World near us. It was actually in RVs.com, so like a subsidiary of Camping World. And I'm like, hey, Camping World is huge. It should be trustworthy, and so I'll purchase an RV there. And so we went, and it was our first purchase. We had bought a used RV from a private person before, a motorhome, but I wanted to buy it from a reputable dealership. And so we went there, and it ended up being we bought this 2018 Coleman Lantern. And it was the floor plan that we wanted. My kids and I were super excited. We went to the finance person, and they'd actually, I think, quoted us like a $19,000 initial on it. And then ended up paying for a pre-check inspection. There were 2 extended warranties. There was like a $3,000 extended warranty, and then a paint warranty that they put on there. And so we ended up leaving the place at $7,000 more than what we paid for the RV, just on warranties and pre-check stuff.
Okay, so let me see if I get this. So you bought the RV in 23, a
Yeah,
couple of years ago.
yeah.
Was it new or was it used? What?
It was used. It was used. So it was a 2018. I bought it in 23, so it was 5 years old at that point.
Okay, but it sounds like you got the typical treatment that I hear about all the time, is that when you got into the finance department, they sort of added all this stuff on it and you just didn't know any better.
Yeah, yeah, and part of that too was because of the experience I had with my friend. I wanted to make sure that I had the peace of mind of extended warranties, and unfortunately, I was told that the extended warranty covers everything, and I should have no issue. So that was part of the kind of the lack of transparency there. And so I purchased this used RV, and my kids and I took a trip down to San Diego. It was like a 10-day trip, and we came back, and I noticed that the roof looked a little different. It had these wrinkles on the top. I have like no idea what was up there. And so I took it into Camping World, and they're like, "Hey, your roof peeled back. Some screws. I guess some screws came off the front of the RV, and they told me this is like pretty usual when manufacturers tend to not put enough adhesive on the roof, and roofs peel back. So I guess it's a known issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, "Hey, like,
How did that make you feel when you? I mean, because you obviously you didn't have it for that long, and all of a sudden now the roof blows off, or not all the way off, but it starts coming up.
yeah. So that's this whole journey has taught me a lot about customer service. And I used to work for Intel, where customer service was a big deal. Like, I worked for Amazon for a long time, where customer obsession was humongous, and so quality and all that piece, was a big thing for me. It was, but nonetheless, it was used, and so it'd been 5 years, and so from that piece, like, okay, there's something that I should expect from that deal. Um, but then what happened was that they're like, "Hey, like, we can't spend." It was like a $7,000 repair at that point for a full roof. So I think almost close to $8,000. And they're like, "Hey, like, we can't spend that on it, but let's do an insurance claim and see if insurance will cover it." And of course, insurance didn't cover it. They were like, "Hey, he didn't hit anything. This is a manufacturing defect." And that's actually when I heard about this being a very common issue with these RVs, where they don't put enough.
But hang on, what did Camping World tell you when you? I mean, you thought you had purchased. You said there were two like a warranty and another warranty. All
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
What did they tell you,
yeah.
Rajiv?
So that's a really good point. But at that point, they said, "Hey, the external warranties do not cover the roof." And so that was like, oh my goodness, I just spent $4,000, just on these warranties, and there is no roof covered on that. And that's, excluding the pre-inspection check, which when I went in, they did the walkthrough, and I said, "Hey, like, I can't see the roof. I can't go check it. What is the assurance that it's okay?" And the guy's like, "The roof is fine. We actually went and did some resealing on some of the parts, and it's perfectly fine. You should be good." So there was a lot of like shock and like anger, like, "Hey, like, what the heck's going on here?" With the way they're treating this whole situation. But they're like, "Hey, we have a path going forward. We'll do an insurance claim, and they should cover it." So it came back. The insurance claim said, of course, this is a manufacturing defect, and they actually told me to go back to Camping World, which was, again, RVs.com. And it's a big distinction that I want to make,
But
because
it's all under the same umbrella.
it is. But I think part of the problem, and we can talk about this later on, but part of the problem with the bad customer service at Camping World, I think, is its purchase of other dealerships that are not as good in terms of their standard and customer service as it is with Camping World. At least that's kind of what I've experienced this whole journey, and I think that's part of the problem. I think is that they work autonomously, and as a result, a lot of them have legacy ways that they deal with customers. And Camping World, I think, inherits that. Not to give them an excuse, but that's kind of what I see in this whole thing. And you've done this for a lot longer, so you might be totally I might be totally wrong in that, but I think that part of the problem is that in the way that they deal with subsidiaries and the way they're purchasing. Right now I was told that they have, I think, a goal to open 300 stores in the U.S. And so they're buying dealerships very, very quickly, and I think they just don't know how to adopt their standards quickly with these dealerships. So just an FYI. So RVs.com, they basically said, hey, we're not going to spend $8,000, and this was like 3 weeks since I purchased the RV. So it was, like I went a little ballistic on that, and I'm like, hey, this is ridiculous, and tried to escalate it at that point with the general manager and the finance person. And they're like, hey, the best we can do is we'll go and try and repair it. Initially, they said that they can't repair it, it has to be replaced fully. And so with that being the only option, I'm like, okay, let's go in that direction and see where it goes. And they assured me that the roof would be fixed.
Hey, and one question. So you bought it, you first found it through RVs.com,
Yeah.
the website, but then when you bought it, you ended up buying it at Camping World. I mean, it was, yes?
Yeah. All the paperwork says, subsidiary of Camping World. So it was a Camping World product,
Just so you know that that Camping World has got a lot of those I call them subsidiaries. I'm not a lawyer, but they got a lot of little things to legally, I think, cover them, but they all operate under the same, the same corporate structure, if you will. So, all right. So you got denied the claim. They said that they can fix it. You're kind of hot, under the collar, so to speak, and you tried to escalate the situation. What happened then, and what did you do, and what happened?
Yeah, so I took my complaint. I went to the general manager at that point and the finance director who would kind of help me purchase this. And they're like, hey, like we can't spend $7,700 on it, but we can try and repair it. And so I'm like, okay, if that's the only option I have, then let's go ahead and do that. And they gave me like a full assurance that that it would be fully repaired. And during this time, it was actually the rainy season, and so a lot of water had already entered the roof. And I think I sent you pictures of my roof, but
you did, and right now we're gonna, in this video, I'm gonna be rolling over and showing people some of those pictures. That looks pretty nasty. Your roof, I mean,
yeah. So I mean, like
it wasn't a little bit of a separation from the roof material. It was a lot.
It was really, really big. And the roof, the wood had been exposed, and so it wasn't, exposed with water. It had been raining heavily. So I was very, very concerned about water intrusion and, water going into the roof. And at that point, I took their word for it again, just being a big dealership. I'm like, okay, hey, this is the only optionals that I have. Like I was stuck between a hard place and a rock place, so it was difficult for me. And so I ended up getting them to repair it, and with the assurance that it was all okay to go. So that happens. That summer, we take 27 days in the RV with my kids. Amazing memories. And at the end of that summer, the awning fell off. Fell off while I was retracting it in. And so I took it back to Camping World. Again, just a side note, hoping that my extended warranty would cover the awning, because I was told when the roof repaired that, hey, it covers only mechanical issues. And so I'm like, hey, one of the arms of the awning was bent, and so hopefully it would cover it. Long story short, it didn't, and I had to end up paying for that awning repair. So as I go through this whole journey, I realized that those extended warranties don't mean anything. I paid, again, like close to like, it was 4,000 for the extended warranties, the inspection check and everything else was like 7,000. But the extended warranties did not cover anything at all. And at one point, one guy told me that all it covers was motor related issues. I have no idea what that means with a travel trailer, like what motor related issues, So
yeah.
anyways, again, and this is like, I think like part of it is my fault. Like I should have gone and looked up extended warranties as a customer. I think there is a responsibility there that I should have done in terms of making sure that all this stuff was right. Now, after watching your show and watching a whole bunch of shows, I realized like RV inspections are huge. Like even with the new RV, you have to get an inspection, independent inspection, just because RV quality is just so poor right now. And so that's all things that on hindsight that I've learned that I should have done that I take full responsibility for,
Right.
and so, and as a result, like the extended warranty right now, it's not my, it's my fault, that was a bad purchase, and I own that. So I take it in for this awning repair, and the guy they do a courtesy roof inspection, and the guy goes, "Hey, you have like extensive dry rot at the end, the rear of your roof." And the guy, and I go, hey, go, hold a second, like 16 months ago, you guys did this repair and assured me that there was no water damage at that point. And so the guy goes and he goes up to his service manager, comes back a week later and says, we fixed the front of the roof and the water dry rot was in the back. And I'm like, yeah, that is.
Hey, let me guess. It's not covered by the warranty.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Absolutely. And that was the whole deal. And so, at that point, I want to get my awning first repaired, and so I got that fixed. And then again, I went escalation. I went to the general manager. I went to the finance director. Didn't get anywhere. And then one of these, I think YouTube videos that I watched told me about the whole "I'm not happy, you're not happy" Marcus Lemonis's program, Camping World. And so with that, I emailed Marcus at Camping World, and it was very, very impressive because within I think maybe a day or 2 days, I got an email from their team, and they put me in touch with Deanna. Deanna Gonfolo, I think is her last name, and she Garofolo, and she was part of the part of national customer service, something over there. And so she got back to me. She like within a week's time, and she escalated it pretty high up on her chain. And at that point, so the first excuse was, "Hey, we worked in the front, and the back is where the problem was. It's not our responsibility."
Right.
She came back through her escalation channel, and they said, "Hey, same excuse. The donor was the front, but the problem was in the back, so it's not our issue." And then they also talked about like maintenance, like hey, like the seals looked like
Your
they were
fault. Your
yeah,
fault.
exactly my fault. Yeah. So at that point, like there's a lot of frustration. I mean, I spent hours on this whole deal, and I think I don't know if it was your show or there was another show that I watched, and they told me that hey, like Marcus Lemonis is on social media a lot, and he's on, he's on Fox News. I mean, he's got a pretty large public
Mhm.
presence. And at this point too, also like I wanted to make sure that I was covered, and so I had my roof looked at by two independent RV dealerships, RV repair shops here in Reading, and they both concluded that the dry rot, because it was so bad, had been there for not months, but potentially years. And one of them actually said that it's very possible that the dry rot was there when they sold it to me. Like that there's no proof to that, but that was something that potentially was the possibility. But
Yeah, but it was a 5-year-old trailer when you bought it, so
yeah,
it was not a new trailer.
it wasn't a new trend at all. So yeah, there's but then also they said like the repair was done incorrectly. Like if you look at the roof, it looks like it should have been the membrane should have been replaced at that point. And those pictures were taken when the roof peeled back. And
So hang on. So this the roof peeled back. You sent me the pictures, and those pictures you sent were when the roof peeled back, right?
yeah,
Then they fixed it at
yeah,
Camping World,
yeah.
but then it came loose again.
Uh, no, no,
And
no, 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 no. It didn't come loose again at all. It was completely intact at that point. but they found dry rot 16 months later when they were working on the awning.
But I thought you said that they fixed the front, but not the back, and that was at the same time because the back was not connected related to the front.
Yeah, so the peel happened in the front and the side. I mean, it went pretty far back.
Yeah.
But their excuse was the dry rot was in the back, and they had only worked in the front of the roof. And
so when you took it back, you took it back because of the dry rot in the back, not because of the front.
No, I took it back because of the awning, to get the awning replaced.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did a courtesy inspection at that point and found the dry rot in the back.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't for any roof issue at all. I hadn't had an issue, and because they'd done this extensive repair, I didn't check it. It had been like 16 months. We'd gone through a rainy season, and so we were entering another rainy season, and so there was no concern there. And I'd actually gone up to the top and looked at the seams, and they looked all fine. So I had these 2 inspections done, and both these people said, "Hey, this has been there for a long time." One of the Camping World technicians, of the RVs.com technician, also told me, he's like, how long? He didn't know the history behind the repair and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, how long has this dry rot been there? And I go, I have no idea. And I go, why do you ask? He's like, yeah. He's like, because it's been there for a long time. Like, so they, so I had this, like, even they with that acknowledge that it's been there for a long time. So with this information, I mean, I spent like a few $100s getting these inspections done, but I wanted to make sure that, hey, this was not my issue. Like, it wasn't a seam issue. Like, it wasn't that I didn't maintain it correctly. It was maintained fine. The seams were all intact, and this was an issue to do with their repair. And so once I went to this Marcus Camping World, and I went up, escalated up, and their response to that point was, hey, we'll repair it for you, but we'll charge you what we charge insurances per hour. So, instead of 12,000, it'll be, 9,000 or 10,000. And I'm like, no, that's not right. Like, you can't do that. And so at that point, I actually went and I spoke to an attorney. I started a small claims court proceeding at that point.
Good.
And I've spent hours, like maybe hundreds of hours. I know a lot more about RV and the RV industry since I started this journey.
You didn't want to learn it this way.
No, but it's actually been a blessing in disguise too, because I am on a mission now to try and see what I can do to fix it. Like the RV industry is huge. They don't just sell RVs; they sell memories. For me, right, as a single dad with my kids, like, it was a big deal. Like, like the thing of going out, unplugging from the world, unplugging from all the noise. Like, RVs are a big piece of not just an RV purchase, but it's selling memories. It's selling happiness, and so and when you read, like, on this journey, when you read about, like, with the Facebook Camping World Sucks page, and you hear about just these horror stories of people that are retired, that have put their retirement into a purchase of an RV,
right?
And then like, just completely like nightmares, and it's very, very sad, because I think there's an opportunity there that they can change. They can still make money, but they can also look after their customers. And so it's put me on this journey to try and figure out, and that's part of the reason why, Alan, I reached out to you, and I really appreciate that you took the time to talk to me on this. But I'm on this journey to try and see how we can fix it, and there's people like you, and there's a whole bunch of different other people on YouTube that are exposing the problems. But I believe there's an opportunity here to where I think Camping World is a huge opportunity, because they're the largest dealership, in the RV industry. They say, I think new RVs, like 55% of RVs that are sold in the US are sold by Camping World. Like, it's a big deal. So, and I think through this journey, I realized, like, even Marcus Lemonis, I think, has a heart to do the right thing. And I think he just, for whatever reason, is not heading in that direction. That, I don't know.
Rajiv, we're gonna continue talking. You are a great storyteller, and I believe your story. And I wish that I had the optimism that you have. I really mean it, because I don't want to believe what I believe. But I'm not, very respectfully, I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying I truly wish that I was as optimistic as you, because I've seen too much stuff. But so Marcus eventually got a hold of you. That's what I want to go to, because you're happy. You it started out really bad for a long time. You said hundreds and hundreds of hours invested in this, and all of a sudden things started changing. What happened, and how do you what do you credit that to?
Yeah. So I think so after this Marcus at campingworld.com that didn't work, somebody had said, hey, go hit him up on social media. And so I tagged him on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And I'd written up this really, really like very impressive appeal. Like I think part of I think my success was being able to articulate my story and have like not make it emotional, but more the objective and like, hey, this is where like I believe I was wrong in this whole purchase, in this whole issue. And so I wrote this.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
That is so critically important, Rajiv. You write a beautiful letter. You're an excellent communicator. You're disappointed. I can tell. I mean, nobody wants to have a roof go bad and 8,000, 10,000. No, the warranty doesn't cover it. So it would be easy to go down the road of losing your mind and getting angry. But that's the last thing you want to. You may feel it, but you got to control yourself. And you have been an example of somebody that I think has apparently done it the right way, because things worked out for you.
Yeah. And Alan, I heard you talk. I watched just a previous episode of yours where you were talking to somebody that was like, you could tell like they was so frustrated, and it's so easy with human nature to go to that piece of attacking and being like you're hurt, like it's an emotional purchase, and when Camping World does this to you, I think it's very, very easy for people to do that. And I am so grateful that I wasn't able to, that I didn't do that, and I was able to detach that piece and go, okay, hey, like Marcus, I need your help. Like this is something that like I can't, I'm not going to spend, at that point the quote was $12,000 to fix the dry rot in the roof on a trailer that's not even worth that much now, I think, after 2 years. And so it was an appeal to Marcus, and I'm like, hey, like you've said, I watched a whole bunch of his episodes of the Fixer and all this stuff I learned about him, and like, okay, he has the heart for it, he has the compassion, so at least he gives the public appearance of that. And I'm like, hey, I need your help. And so I did this all at like 9:30 on a Thursday morning and Thursday night. 9:30 at night. Okay. And I hit him on Instagram, and I couldn't post my letter because what I did was I picked one of his posts, and then I responded in that post about my situation, but in a very positive way. And so I hit him in all spots. In Instagram, I couldn't put my letter on his post, and so I direct messaged him, and I'm like, hey, Marcus, I need your help. Here's my letters. And he responds within like, I don't know, 5 minutes. And he's like, hey, email me at Marcus at blah, 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 blah. And I go, I already did this morning. I've done this, a few weeks ago. He's like, email me again. And I thought it was like a bot. I wasn't, like Marcus Lemonis, like responding to me, like how does that happen,
Yeah.
So I emailed him again within like 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. He's like, I'm on top of it. He sends a copy to his two of his execs, Jason Shipley and Levi Anderson. Jason Shipley, I found it on LinkedIn, is supposedly his title is executive problem solver, and Levi Shirley is like a senior VP. And that was like before 10 p.m. on Thursday night. Friday morning at 9:30 in the morning, I get an email from Jason Shipley giving me the full summary of my, what they perceive, saw it. And he comes up with the same thing. Hey, it's not an issue. It's not our issue because we fixed the front and the back, he's like, but let's do a phone call and talk about it and see what options you have. And so at that point, I wrote this again. Like all my emails have been like super, super positive. Like I'm like, fighting and being negative is not going to help. Like it's, I've tried that already. It's not going to help. I mean,
Right.
I had all claims court filing in the back, waiting to go that route if I needed to go. But I was super positive, and I was very, very. I mean, I was very, very grateful that Marcus, at 9:30 at night, he's in Chicago, so that's 11:30 his time, that he responds, and that quickly I get a response, by the next morning from the station Shipley. And so I was super, super grateful for that, for the fact that they at least heard me out and they're going to have a meeting, meeting for it. And during that Friday, so I responded. I said, "Hey, like I get that, but that's not what independent RVs, these RV shops have told me that that inspection, that this was an issue that happened, on repair or before, like and I said, like it's happened on at the repair, like it's most probably happened at that time." And so I have this call on Monday morning, and I spent hours trying to research Jason Shipley and kind of what his personality was on LinkedIn, and we had this really good call. And again, like the call was like, from my perspective, was a call of gratitude. Like, hey, like you guys don't have to do this. It is the thing you're supposed to do, but you don't have to do it. It's a used vehicle, and the fact that you're spending, hundreds of dollars on this call with these two main execs, and then Deanna was also on the call.
You didn't say that in the call.
I absolutely did. I told him because I was grateful. Like I was, again, like anything at this point was gratitude for me,
But
because I'd gotten nowhere before that.
I
So
I understand, and I have to. I just want to share what's going on in my head. Okay. Again, I appreciate your optimism, but I call Jason the fixer. He is Marcus's fixer. He's the guy that everything goes to. Marcus doesn't want to have to deal with it. Jason, he's got a second personality. That personality could, the way I see it, I'm so skeptical from what I have heard that my belief, I could be wrong, is that there's a mailbox where all these complaints go. Yours rose to the top because it was nice. It was
yeah,
nice. It really, I don't know exactly the whole chain, but you've got a nice personality. I believe you. I believe that that's the reason it rose to the top. But I wonder if Marcus ever truly got involved. But I'm glad somebody did, and it turned out what did they end up doing for you?
yeah. So on the call, Jason actually acknowledges and says, "Hey, I in hindsight, we should have maybe gone and got the full roof replaced, like fixed, like." And so that was huge. At that point, like, okay, there was some acknowledgement there, and I was like super optimistic about it. And so we had the call, and within like 15 minutes later, the service manager, the service director at Camping World in Anderson, Sean, I've forgotten his last name, but he calls me, and we had this great call, and he's like, "Hey, I've been told I need to bring in your RV, your trailer for an inspection, a roof inspection, and when can we schedule that?" And it basically took like a week before they could have me come in. And so I take it for a week, and I waited like 10 days to 2 weeks. I'm like, I didn't hear anything. And so I sent out an email like, "Hey, um, would love to, like, what's going on? Like, what's the update on this?"
Yeah,
And
please talk to me. Trying to get him to talk.
absolutely, absolutely. And also, like, after that call, the email that I sent to you was a response to that call. And during this whole process, I realized, like, I worked at Amazon for many years, and we weren't delivering packages; we were delivering smiles. And for employees to understand that meant that our mission was very, very different, And I had this whole inspiration, this call to action for Marcus and his team. I'm like, hey, like, like, what if you change this narrative and you go from not just selling RVs, but realize you're selling memories, and that goes down the chain? It changes the whole narrative of Camping World and what you could be. So um, I emailed them back, and they nobody responds. But a day later, Sean again calls me. He's like, "Hey, I just got the call from the executive team that they're going to replace your roof." And he had quoted them, I think it's like a $16,000 repair for the roof. $12,000 just for the labor. It was a 60-hour labor to replace the whole roof. And then the dry rot and the materials and that stuff was, the rest of the amount.
But the camper's not even worth that.
Exactly. So something that I forgot to talk about during this whole process, the general manager at Camping One calls me. He's like, I've been told to ask you how much you owe on the trailer, and I owed like 22,000. And so I think they were thinking of trying to buy it off from me, at one point, and realized like that would cost them even more than what the trailer was. So $16,000. They fixed it, and I picked up my trailer last week, and I have a brand new roof. And I actually through the process, like Sean, and this is where I say it was a different experience, because when I went back to Camping World, and RVs.com also got purchased. They got not purchased, but they got it became one big old facility, Camping World facility,
Right.
and the Camping World service was completely different. The RVs.com service, like it was a completely different experience. Now I do realize that when I went in to take my trailer in, the service tech goes, "Oh, you're Marcus's VIP customer," and so I know that there was some change in the way they treated me because of Marcus Lemonis's supposedly his involvement in this. But yeah, they replaced it, and I've actually reached out to Marcus a couple of times on Instagram. I know now how to get a hold of him, and with some ideas on trying to see how they can help him. And he's responded, so I this
Or
is what my
somebody responded.
somebody responded,
Somebody, I want to hope it was Marcus too. But
yeah.
Rajiv, if somebody knows if somebody has an abusive spouse, and that's what they do, they're an abusive spouse, and one day they're really nice, and they really want to change, but you can't take the abuse out of them. You can't, and when the motivating thing for Marcus is it's not the customer.
Yeah.
If the shareholders aren't happy, Marcus isn't happy. He better make his shareholders happy. And with the stock drop that's happened in the last month or two, those people aren't happy. So I think his attention, while I think that you should be admired for your restraint, your professionalism, the way that you approach things, really, it's very admirable. But his attention is not on customers; it's on that stock price. And and his people have learned all the way through the system. I don't care what entity it's called, that our objective is the stock price. It's getting as much of this. And if they would have explained to you, ask you this, you said it was $7,000 they added onto your purchase in all these fees and inspection, delivery, whatever, this warranty, that thing, paint protection, $7,000. If they would have said, hey, Rajiv, you don't have to take this. We suggest you don't have to take it. And by the way, it's not going to cover a roof. It's not going to cover rot. If there's something rotten, it's not going to cover any of that. Would you have still spent the $7,000?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. No.
I don't think so. Nobody would. And that's why they don't say it, because they're not obligated to say it. But I'm so glad that you had a positive experience. And I'm not trying to say that you didn't. What advice would you give to other people that are in my God, Camping World sucks. That Facebook group had 52,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think I feel very, very grateful and fortunate that it came out as a positive experience. I know a lot of people have reached out to Jason, and the response has been like nothing. So, but I think it's really, really important. First, I think anything in life, you want to give people the opportunity to do the right thing. And I think that was something that I think they had the opportunity to do, and they stood up and they did it. But I think it's important, like, to make sure you have enough information to back up your situation. I think there are cases where it's not Camping World's fault, but there are a lot of cases that are. And I think if you have an issue, I think to make sure that first of all that you get some data. Unfortunately, you got to put in the time to go and research and figure out like your best form of attack, and I think making sure you have like independent RV people that kind of give you some sort of data for that. The second thing I think too is I think is super important is being able to articulate your the problem and what you want out of it. And you talked about this to somebody else just recently. You know, like it's really important. Like I wanted my roof repaired, like replaced, like that came out through all my emails. Like, hey, I need you to do this because I'm not gonna spend that much money on a trailer that's worth, you know, not even that.
Right.
So I think that's important. And I think the other thing is, like, you know, if you can, or whatever it takes, like take the emotional piece out, because it is, you know, for me it was just a, you know, a $29,000 trailer, but a lot of people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a trailer, and I know it's a much tougher deal to do. But I think it's super important to take the emotion out. Like you have to take the emotion out and be very objective with what you want, you know. And I think, you know, I like I've said, like I spent hundreds of hours on this. Like I researched Marcus Lemonis, Jason Shipley, like all these guys, and I came up with a strategy that helped me be successful. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think it was also, I was just, for whatever reason, was very fortunate, and you know, it worked out.
So the people that are in what I call RV purgatory now, what I'm hearing is, number one, deep breath, calm down, try, understand we all have these emotions. We do, you know, and we're facing different pressures. We got to make a payment. We have no other place to live. Well, lots of different things push that emotional button. But the main thing you're saying, I think, is stay cool, calm,
Yeah.
and don't go away. Be persistent. Let them know what you want.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to escalate the situation. And I don't mean emotionally escalate, intellectually, using your brain like you have done,
Yeah.
escalate, but don't go away.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like help out there. Like I think people like you, there's that, you know, RV advocacy that I found out. There's all these different areas that you can pursue, you know. And I think a lot of people jump to the whole attorney thing, you know. And I did. I actually reached out to an attorney,
Yeah.
and this person actually told me, she was like super honest, and she's like, hey, she's like, you can go down this route, but you'll end up spending more money on attorney costs than what potentially you might not even win the case, because, you know, Camping World has tons of attorneys. And so,
Right.
you know, unfortunately, that seems to be our first mode of attack, and it's not the best attack. I know you've talked about this with small claims court, and I think that is a great avenue. And you know, what's interesting is that I trusted them, but I didn't cancel my small claims court date till I got the acknowledgement that they were going to fix my roof. So, you know, like it was there as plan B if I had to go in that direction. But I didn't stop it, you know. Even
Did,
the small,
did they know? Did they know that you had gone to small claims court, Camping World?
so I did file a 20-day notice to I forgot what it's called. You don't file it to Camping World, you file it to their registered
Mm-hmm.
legal registry. I forgot what the term is.
Yeah.
And so I filed it with them. I know Deanna knew that I'd filed this. I'm not sure if Marcus and Jason knew this, but
What's the maximum you can sue for in California? You're in California, right?
yeah,
Small claims court. What's the max? 10 grand?
12,500.
Okay, so they would have, you know, to me, that I try to look at things both. When somebody gets too excited, I try to calm them down. When they're too negative, I try to pull them up. And to me, if your case, if you would have gone to small claims court, I believe Camping World would not have shown up. You would have gotten a judgment against them for $12,500, and they knew it. And they said, you know what? This guy has taken the high road. It's going to cost us money anyway. Maybe they did want to do the right thing. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you are an exception rather than the rule. What have people told you in these groups? Because I've seen you online. Have they attacked you? Have they asked what your secret is? What have they been supportive?
And I haven't been very public with it right now. I want to make sure again, like that I'm strategic with the way I'm, because because I see your point here. Like, I don't want to diminish what people are going through right now, and the negative experiences. There's a lot, a group that has 52,000, members, and it is a lot of people that are really, really been hurt and upset by Camping World. But I also know that Camping World, I think their Good Sam's customer base is 800,000. So, they have a lot of customers. And I think, there are, unfortunately, the way we work is we talk more about the negative stuff than we talk about the positive stuff. And I know there are some positive stories with Camping World. They have to be. Like, I don't believe that all, 100, whatever, 400,000 customers that they might have are all negative, And so that there are, it's a small percentage of the whole number. And so I want to make sure that when I do this, that I don't diminish what people are going through, because my story was nothing compared to somebody that, like you said, that's living in an RV. Like somebody I think that you interviewed talked about it, they'd never buy an RV again, and they're living in an RV, and this is going to be their last purchase because of what they've dealt with, with the RV industry, which is just, it's just so sad.
Why do you think that Camping World depends on first-time RV buyers, people that really don't know what's going on? And most people, when they buy another RV, they don't go back to the same dealer. Why do you think that is,
I
honestly?
think I think it's part of the auto industry, the way sales happens. For them, it's the quick sale, it's the first sale. They don't really care about customer service. I think, like, the majority of auto stories you hear in the auto industry are the same thing. Like, you get upsold on stuff. You're not told about transparency. So I think the RV industry, I think, has become in that piece. I think it's just taken on that same mode of, like, like, hey, let's try and not be transparent. And it's all about the first sale. Like, you're selling an RV for $100,000. You make X amount on it, and then who cares about the rest? And my spiel to Marcus has been, hey, he talks about this thing called white space, about the fact that there's opportunity to be gotten there. And I'm like, hey, there is opportunity. There's a great story of Best Buy. When Best Buy and Circuit City and all these guys were around, Circuit City died and I think it was in the
Right.
90s. It was. But Best Buy became they were the only ones that survived it. And there was at that point the CEO was a guy called Herbert Jolly, and he wrote this really good book called The Heart of Business. And he talks about how at that point he leaned into service and realized, like, hey, if he leans into service, that he has an opportunity there that could make Best Buy survive and become a big player in this. And I think that's the whole thing with Camping World. I think, like, okay, right now they're doing well, they're growing, but at some point somebody is going to take over, and they're going to lose their spot. Like, I think when you have a sales attitude that's only based on the initial sale, it's going to die. I mean, that's just how life happens. Ultimately, you're going to have enough people complain, enough people, complain to where this goes away. And I think a big portion also in this, I think, is Camping World is a dealer. I think through your channel and some other channels, like, the whole RV manufacturing industry is really, really messed up. I found out that the majority of RVs are built in Indiana. Somebody said that they're built in Indiana because there is no lemon law. I just like how does that happen? And so I think, like, but with AI these days, I think somebody's going to come in, be able to replicate what Thor does or what Forest River does. And Winnebago, the three largest. They're going to come in, and these guys are going to lose their sales. Like, it's not going to happen for the next 10 years. And they have to understand, if they don't fix and they don't make customers happy, that their finance breaks. This Herbert Jolly, he has this model where he says finance gets driven by happy customers, and happy customers get driven by engaged employees. And employees that are engaged and have a purpose and a mission. But if you don't have happy customers, your finance is going to go. And so, yes, Camping World is doing great now, but the next 10 years, are they going to be around? Highly unlikely if they continue this journey.
See, my looking ahead, what I see, I don't see Camping World doing great. I really don't. I see them. On borrowed time. That's just my perception. Yeah. I see their stock prices falling. They've got some. How do we do that? They're bookkeeping errors and adjustments, and I see a customer base that has been so taken advantage of. It's. I'm telling you, you are the only person that has contacted me, Rajiv, that said it turned out to be a good thing. And I'm not doubting you. I think you are a gentleman and you are professional. And I wish Camping World treated other people the way they've treated you. I just don't see it. It's, Jeffrey Dahmer, who was a cannibal. I don't think he was a cannibal every day. I think sometimes he actually was really nice to a little kid instead of eating him. But he was still Jeffrey Dahmer. And that's a terrible analogy, but I think it's hard to change the spots of somebody. And when you say that Marcus has a heart, we all have a heart, but his heart is about service to shareholders and this. And that's just my opinion. I welcome other people's opinion, and I'm not trying to push back on you. I appreciate you. And if I just wanted to bash on Camping World, I would have never invited you on, but I thought you were an honest guy. So that's why you're here, and I'm glad you are.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it, and I this is a difficult podcast to do too, because I know like there are people that are really hurting with Camping World, and I don't want to diminish that at all. Like that's the reality, and like you brought up the the examples of some of these people, abusive relationship or whatever it is that people do good just to for whatever reason. So I don't want to diminish what's going on, but I believe that like I have the hope and the optimism that Camping World can change this industry, that they have the leverage, they have the power, they have the people to actually change this and make this different. And if they don't, I think Camping World is going to go away. I totally agree with you 100% there. Like they cannot continue this journey and grow with taking advantage of people the way they do. So I think that's a really important thing. And I want to make sure that like my positive experience does not diminish from the negative. That's not at all not all my goal. But I want to give them the benefit of the doubt to some extent and give them an opportunity to go and do the right thing and change, because buying an RV is such a big deal. It's not just an RV. It's like buying a home. Like people put so much of value into buying an RV. And if they realize that they don't sell RV, they sell happiness, they sell memories, then I think that they will change and they can grow and still make money. Like, their service can do really well. Like you think of it, like somebody buys an RV, they have it for a few years, and there's opportunity there that they're losing because of the way they sell an RV. So
they don't care. That's again my opinion. And the problem is it's hard to make somebody care about something. If they don't care, if the general manager, if the employees, if the salesperson, if the technicians, the service manager, if they don't care, if they don't have that sense of, God, I got to take care of this problem. I need to do a better PDI. I need to do a better walkthrough instead of 10 minutes and somebody that's never even owned RV is going, well, what was that all about? They demonstrate. People that are good people, I believe, they demonstrate that they care. Maybe not every minute, but there's some level of care. And I don't see that level of care coming from these big chain stores. Not saying it's not there. I'm just saying that you were very fortunate, in my opinion, to receive some of that care. And I'm grateful that you and I had a chance to meet. You're a good guy, Rajiv. I'm impressed.
No, I think I have a lot of gratitude. Like I am totally, but I'm also on a mission now to change this. Like, whatever it means, however I can help. If people want to reach out to me and like help me, like write letters, whatever it is. Like I really want, to help people in this. My part of my journey has been in the nonprofit world. I run a school in India, and so I have this, I have an empathy for people, and I want to help people. I've been given a lot, and therefore, for whatever I've been given, I want to help people. So, any way that I can help, I'm totally open. You're more than willing to, if you want to give my email address, my contact information to people, because I think, like watching some of your shows, I think things could change if people took the emotional piece out of it and were objective, and persistent, and realizing, okay, like this is a bad situation. It's not fair, but what can I do to try and make this, okay? So I think that's a really big piece in this whole thing. And I think also, like, I think there's a thing of expectations too, like, buying an RV, like, people say it's buying a house on wheels, and it's like taking a house through an earthquake. The RVs are going to cost money, and there's an expectation that I didn't go into, like realizing that, hey, like an RV is a big deal, and so And there are, like I was looking at Brinkley. You had a thing on somebody that bought a Brinkley, and I looked up costs on Brinkley's, and they're like, what, they double the cost of a regular trailer. So they're amazing product, but they're also a lot more expensive, And so when you're buying something from Thor or from Forest River, you're paying for a cheaper deal, but there's expectations that you gotta, as a customer, I think you are responsible for, and I think that's where I think you are doing an amazing job in letting people realize, like, hey, like buying an RV is not like buying, a toothbrush or something. It's a big deal, and you have to like go in realizing, like, go do independent inspections, like do all these things to protect yourself, and realize, like, hey, at the end of
Read the agreement. Read it. Understand it. Ask questions. Take your time. All those things. But all of that requires something called discipline. And most people, if you ask them, are you very well disciplined? Oh, yeah. And then you watch them. No. Most people respond instead of, they react instead of, get in front of things. So listen, we're going to leave it there. Rajiv, thank you very, very much. This has been very enlightening for me and gives me some optimism. So thanks for joining me.
Hey, and thank you so much for what you're doing. Like, it's amazing for people like myself. So I really, really appreciate that you take the time and you give people a platform to tell a story. Like, like the majority of us want to be heard, and I think part of this journey, when you have somebody in there that's been treated has been treated poorly, and then has a platform to talk, it's a big deal. So I really, really appreciate what you're doing, and continue doing it. And if there's any way I can help, if you have any ideas and how I can, we can change this, like, I'm all about change. Like, that's something that I'm driven by, and I want to make sure that this no longer happens. There's too many people taking advantage of it, and that's not right. So,
well, that's Rajiv's story. What do you think? Me? I like him, and I love his optimism. I wish I could share it. But to me, you know what? He seems real. He does. And not like some kind of Camping World plant wanting to do a video. His experience is so common. It is. Someone who got the classic finance office treatment. He bought a used trailer with hidden problems, spent hundreds of hours fighting for a roof that never should have been an issue, and somehow still walks away with optimism and a brand new roof. How cool is that? Now, I'll tell you right out, Rajiv is the exception, not the rule. Most of the folks who contact me about Camping World do not get this kind of ending, not even close. They get gray hair and high blood pressure, and then, of course, they got the monthly payments that go on and on and on forever. So here's what I'd like to know from you. Does his story change the way you feel about Camping World? Does it? Does it give you a little bit of hope that Camping World can make some real adjustments in the way they do business? Let me know in the comment section down below. And make sure you check out America's most trusted RV dealers by scanning that QR code over here or clicking on the link in the description. Not only will you find some of the greatest RV dealers in the country, but all kinds of buyer and seller resources to help save you money and avoid an RV nightmare. And if you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications to all. And we'll save a place for you around the virtual campfire. This is where we talk about RVs, responsibility, and real-world consequences without the screaming, without the clickbait. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home.